The act of disappearing has become something of a phenomenon with multifaceted issues that add a level of complexity. In a modern technological era in which surveillance has become a norm, we would expect some of these mysteries to be solved instantly, but this isn't what happens. Number 10. No parent ever expects to be the one standing in front of a news reporter's microphone, having to describe their child, hoping that someone has seen them because they've gone missing or failed to make contact. This would be the exact situation that the Vidal family would find themselves in when it came to the disappearance of their adult son, Zachary Vidal. They described him as a great kid who really enjoyed being surrounded by family. He looked forward to their social gatherings where they'd all have fun together. Those fun family gatherings were made impossible since Zachary's inexplicable disappearance in 2022. It was the 22nd of October that year when the 27-year-old walked into the 7-Eleven convenience store located in the area of Route 61 in East Norwegian Street in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. He was spotted on the store's surveillance camera wearing a red shirt, blue jeans, a tan jacket, and Oakley baseball hat. The camera recorded his entrance at around 4 p.m. that day and also his departure, marking the lead up to his final moments before he disappeared. Later that same day, Zachary would reportedly head to a house party somewhere in Pottsville. According to the residents of the home, he would leave sometime in the early morning hours the following day and hasn't been seen or heard from since. The Vidal family doesn't believe that the young man intended to disappear and suggests that someone knows something and holds the critical key to answering the question of Zachary's whereabouts. After he was reported missing, the Pottsville police quickly began to search for clues. One tip came through right after the vanishing, claiming that Zachary had been observed walking along the railroad tracks leading out of the city. Authorities, though, weren't able to confirm the sighting, leaving the convenience store surveillance footage and party attendance as the only confirmed movements before he went missing. Zachary is said to walk the area of Pottsville Free Public Library, as well as the Wheel on Market and Center Streets, but he hasn't been seen at any of these spots that he was known to frequent. It's also been suggested that he may have been in Schuylkill Haven, a borough in Pennsylvania, or Sharp Mountain in eastern Pennsylvania, which acts as part of the Ridge and Valley Appalachians. Despite the search efforts carried out in these areas, Zachary remains missing. Information regarding the missing Zachary Vidal can be directed to the Pottsville Police Department at 570-622-1234. Number 9. The Brockton Police Department, the K-9 units, and other rescue organizations flocked to the wooded areas surrounding Caffrey Towers, located at 755 Crescent Street in Brockton, Massachusetts, in the early days of July this year. They were searching for a missing person, someone whose disappearance was not only mysterious, but incredibly dangerous. The disappearance of 70-year-old Marie Louise Sant, who occupied the apartment where officers were searching. It was the 5th of July when Marie, who only speaks Haitian Creole, wandered off from her apartment complex, disappearing into oblivion. According to the family, she'd wandered off before, but was always quickly located. But the dense forest that surrounded her home made finding her all the more difficult if she ended up there. Relatives have voiced their concerns over this particular disappearance, despite the previous incidents. Fears for her well-being began to mount as the days pressed on. Marie was spotted on the surveillance camera right outside of the apartment complex, only capturing her making an exit, but not revealing which way she may have gone. Although the police and rescue personnel searched with utmost urgency, they failed to find any clues that might lead them to where Marie ended up. They've since turned to the public, hoping that someone saw something. It appears, though, that no one did. The canines never picked up on a scent in the wooded area, adding yet another layer of complexity to the case. Officials who are investigating the case haven't revealed if they suspect foul play or not, or who the last person was to see her, or what the circumstances of Marie's sudden vanishing may have been. Did she simply wander off and get lost? Did someone pick her up? Or is something more sinister at play here? These are the questions that have the Massachusetts community on edge. With no evidence coming to light, the case would be circulated on social media instead, hoping for one witness to come forward. But that circulation only attracted one unnerving theory that several social media users guessed at. They suggested that Marie was likely a victim of ICE, the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, given the woman's origins in Haiti. With this suggestion, fears have only worsened for the family. If Marie were taken into custody by ICE, then she could be anywhere, either in detention or already deported, and none of her relatives would even know about it. The Brockton police continue to search for the missing woman, whose age and potential health complications make finding her an urgent matter. A channel of communication has been opened by the police, hoping that tips from the community may lead to her whereabouts. Information can be directed to the Brockton Police Department at 508-941-0200. Number 8. It was the 27th of November, 2024, when Michael Bounds from Eureka, California, left his home to go to the grocery store. He would allegedly be shopping with a friend and was due to meet them sometime after 4:30 that day. But it seemed that he never arrived to meet his friend at Pine Hill Apartments, vanishing into obscurity instead. 2 days went by before the family became alerted that something was wrong. On the afternoon of the 29th of November, he'd be reported missing to the Eureka Police Department, prompting a quick search that uncovered various eerie details. The first bit of information they discovered was that before his disappearance at around 3 p.m., surveillance footage captured the 60-year-old at Murphy's Market in the Blue Lake area, unaccompanied, and prior to his appointment to meet his friend. The next detail came from a witness who claimed to have seen the silver 2006 Dodge Charger with the license plate 9CC-F459, owned by Michael, near the Pine Hill Apartments, having spotted it around 5:52 p.m. that day. That vehicle would be discovered on the 30th of November. It was found abandoned and unlocked at Vance and Eureka Street within the Pine Hill area. The Charger stood an eerie 3 blocks away from the friend's apartment, but Michael was nowhere to be seen. Inside was his cell phone, which was without battery power. Investigators hoped that data present on his cell phone might give them clues that could piece together the missing man's final moments and possibly lead to his whereabouts. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to secure a warrant. Legal hurdles and blocked data may be preventing the solution to the enigma. Authorities scoured the area extensively, but found no clues or evidence that could suggest his whereabouts. Police would then find another bit of surveillance footage that came from the area in which the vehicle was found. The video showed the Charger pulling up on Vance Avenue with the headlights off. Its timestamp suggested 8:05 p.m., several hours after a witness had seen it. Whatever happened after 8:05 that evening remains unknown, but it resulted in an enduring and concerning mystery that's left the community with a sinister feeling. With no leads and no clues, the only thing that the Eureka Police Department was left with was conducting more searches. The third operation saw the combined effort of the EPD and search and rescue teams. Together, they combed through 31 acres of greenbelt near the area in which Michael's car had been discovered. Fire volunteer teams and 6 canines were involved in the efforts, but to no avail. Michael had vanished. The disappearance continued to perplex the California community, which wondered what happened that fateful day. Information regarding the disappearance of Michael Bounds can be directed to the Eureka Police Department at 707-441-4060. Number 7. Sarah Gail Ebersol was born in September of 1996 as the youngest of 8 children. She'd grow up in Sarasota, Florida, where she was raised by her aunt and uncle. By the time she was a teenager, Sarah found herself switching between 2 households, that of her aunts and that of her sisters in Dunallen. In 2014, at the age of 18, he moved to Dunallen and got married, but the marriage was short and the pair separated in just a year. Sarah would end up sharing an apartment on 19220 Northwest 60th Avenue in Reddick, Florida. She worked in the area as an exotic dancer. Despite the minor setback of divorce, separation, and moving back to Reddick, Sarah's life was going well, but that would come to a sudden end on the 2nd of March 2023, when she ominously disappeared. It was around 7 p.m. that evening when she got off work and texted her sister, asking for a ride home. The sibling, though, was unavailable and couldn't pick her up. 50 minutes later, she sent another text telling her to say hello to her children. Then at 10:11 p.m., the last message would come through. Looking back at it now, the sibling wished she could have dissuaded her from doing this. That last text stated Sarah was climbing into a random truck with random men that she described as cowboys. She appeared delighted to be in their company and expected a fun ride home. Sarah was seen on surveillance camera of the Circle K gas station on 17980 North Highway 441, climbing into the black pickup truck with 2 men. The 26-year-old never arrived home, and she hasn't been seen or heard from since. The very next day, concerned for Sarah's well-being, the roommate tried to file a missing person report, but the police maintained that she would need to wait a whole week. When the family couldn't establish contact with Sarah, they ultimately reported her missing to the Marion County Sheriff's Office, and the investigation began. Authorities managed to quickly identify the unknown males that Sarah was last seen with. They were brought in for an interview, but the police never revealed any information that they may have collected. Investigators would later say that Sarah was last sighted in the early hours of the 3rd of March, allegedly getting into a blue sedan, which witnesses believe was a Hyundai. One of the cowboys' roommates came forward to reveal that the missing woman had been at their residence that evening, hanging around until the early hours. She then left on her own and climbed into that blue vehicle. From there, the case went cold, with witness accounts and surveillance footage being the only leads they had. Then, a whole year later, after tirelessly working to figure out who the owner of the blue sedan was, there was a break in the case. In March of 2024, the Marion County Sheriff's Office named the driver of the vehicle. It was Tyrone Mormon, who's now considered to be a person of interest. Investigators obtained a warrant to search the man's phone and discovered that he and the missing woman were at a convenience store located in the northwest section of Marion County. They'd been there on the morning of the 3rd of March 2023. Unfortunately, this is the only information that police were able to determine, and Mormon has been uncooperative ever since. Now, law enforcement has been forced to reach out to the public for any information that answers the question, what happened to Sarah Ebersole? Information can be directed to the Marion County Sheriff's Office at 352-368-3508. Number 6. Police are short on clues when it comes to the disappearance of Scott Schwartz, who was last spotted on CCTV, leaving his apartment complex in Liberty Township, Ohio. There are several cameras strewn throughout Liberty Center, but only one of them picked him up. The video that the Butler County Sheriff's Office did find showed the man descending the staircase at 8:13 p.m., wearing a gray CSI shirt and dark jeans, and then he vanished. Scott, a 60-year-old man who lives in the 7500 block of Blake Street, had family living in Georgia, leading him to often split his time between the two places. It was the 19th of August in 2024 when he left his apartment and subsequently vanished. 2 days later, his wife would head to the Butler County Sheriff's Office to report her husband missing. She told the officers that she was struggling to make contact with him, and not hearing from him for this long was certainly uncharacteristic. Investigators headed to the apartment shortly after, hoping to uncover clues that may lead to his whereabouts. Aside from surveillance footage, there was nothing. Officers found no sign of forced entry, but they did find some leftover food on the counter, alleged to be from the Brio Italian grill, seemingly indicating that Scott planned to return to the apartment. His car and cell phone were also left behind. He was never seen on any other cameras that may have revealed his next movements, or if someone had picked him up. Almost a year later, the sheriff's office has received no leads or clues that could lead to Scott's whereabouts. They've sent alerts to police departments as far as Columbus, hoping that someone saw something. Despite going through his cell phone, financial records, and computer, no leads have surfaced. Police found no evidence of foul play and no indications that he'd withdrawn or used any money since. Scott walked down the stairs that fateful day and enigmatically disappeared. Any information that may be of use in locating this individual can be directed to the Butler County Sheriff's Office at 513-785-39 1300 with case number 245789. Number 5. It was the 9th of November, 2021, when Auckland police went from door to door, knocking and hoping that neighbors had some information. They were searching for Sandringham resident Cindy Lee, who was last spotted on CCTV footage before she mysteriously disappeared. The 70-year-old was seen walking along Tranmere Road, but failed to capture whatever happened next. Cindy routinely went for morning walks and would often be spotted by neighbors. The woman headed out for that standard walk, but instead of finding relaxation, a large-scale search was carried out. Authorities quickly put together search and rescue teams that were deployed for 5 days, scouring the neighborhood. While searches were underway, officers would attempt to locate other security camera footage in the area, hoping to track Cindy's movements and figure out where she may have ended up. Days passed and they found nothing. Despite their best efforts and very few leads, law enforcement couldn't say what happened, if someone was involved, or if it was some kind of strange accident. Although she was 70 years old, Cindy was said to be active and fit and had no medical reason to vanish. The woman had also been living in New Zealand for 30 years, where she owned a business with her husband, so there was no possibility that she could have simply lost her way. With no new leads, police were forced to turn to the public for information. They released the CCTV footage, a description, and a picture of the missing woman, hoping someone saw something. They asked if anyone saw a woman wearing clothing that matched the description and for them to come forward. But the days drew on with no clues that may lead to Cindy's whereabouts, and hope began to dwindle. Then, most unexpectedly, 11 days later, nearing the 2-week mark of the disappearance, the police discovered something remarkable. On the 20th of November, around midday, Cindy was located in critical condition at a neighbor's home. Though she had no physical injuries, the woman was severely dehydrated when she was found and was transported to the hospital, where she would be stabilized in the intensive care unit. It turned out that this one house in particular, which was unoccupied, wasn't searched until that very day. Police revealed that Cindy had been located, but couldn't say what led to her disappearance, and that this would only be made clear when she was well enough to speak. But as of 2025, the circumstances surrounding the bizarre vanishing remain a mystery. Many questions still remain when it comes to the disappearance of Cindy Lee. How'd she get into the house? If the police had knocked on that door, why didn't she call out? Was this a kidnapping go wrong, or an unknown medical episode that was the culprit? Number 4. Since his early childhood, Mark Wallace Davis, born in February 1985, had been described as a kind individual. Growing up, he'd earned the nickname Little Michael Jordan and was quite a presence in his family's life. That's why his absence today is plagued with grief, as relatives continue to grapple with the unyielding quest for answers. It was 2018. Davis, living in Clarksville, Tennessee, found himself becoming a father of 6. He loved his children and spent much of his time with them when he wasn't working at his construction job. Little did they know it at the time, but that year would be the last time that his children would see him. It was the 15th of June when Davis was last spotted at a Marathon gas station at 1230 Preachers Mill Road, which has since closed down. Security cameras captured the moment that the 33-year-old arrived in his white and red truck. He then walked into the store and used the restroom. After that, he was spotted walking out of the building and heading to its rear, where there were no cameras. It was here that Davis was said to have gotten into a physical altercation with an unnamed individual. No details about the confrontation were ever publicized. He then headed back to his truck, climbed in, and drove off. That was the last time that anyone would see him. But as he left, Davis remained in communication with some friends, to whom he sent text messages. 2 days later, on Father's Day, the family knew that something was wrong. They hadn't heard from him since that day, and given his devotion to his children, his absence on Father's Day was a call for concern. A few more days would go by before the missing man's concerned roommate began contacting the family, asking if any of them had seen Davis. Relatives soon realized it had been several days since they had heard from him, which was very unusual given that he regularly spoke to them. After the roommate reached out, several attempts to contact him were made, but the phone calls went unanswered. The family even contacted the local hospitals, hoping that he may have ended up there. But hope was quickly dwindling. After Davis was reported missing by relatives, the search for information commenced. Investigators discovered the CCTV footage and quickly realized that foul play may have been involved in the disappearance. They also speculated that someone was holding on to information that would lead them to his whereabouts. Davis's mother, Kim, believes that something tragic may have taken place. Crime shows have since become a part of her life, and she searches for anything that she could add to the case. But all she's been able to do is ask the community to come forward with information. Kim took to Facebook to spread the word of her missing son, prompting several strangers to come together in a combined effort to search Clarksville from the spots he was known to frequent to places he would have never even gone to. Despite the hours, days, and weeks of searching, no clues could lead to Davis's whereabouts being surfaced, leaving the family with gaping wounds that can only be filled by the answer to the question, where is Mark Wallace Davis? Information regarding this disappearance can be directed to the Clarksville Police Department at 931-648-0656. Number 3. Anguish is commonly felt by thousands and thousands of families across the globe each year when their loved ones simply do not come home. Some are forced to live with the grief of finding that person's lifeless body, and others have to face the encumberment of never knowing what happened. One Northern Ireland family would come up against the unfortunate latter. Gerard Conway resided in Cookstown when he was reported missing by his family in February of 2007. The 32-year-old was reportedly diagnosed with bipolar disorder some years prior, which made his sudden absence all the more worrisome. It was the 25th of February when Gerard was last seen. He was spotted on the CCTV footage at a bank that day, where he withdrew some money from his account. After that, some who knew him alleged to have seen him in late January and early February, but midway through the month, the Conway family was forced to report him missing. Immediate search efforts were launched, hoping that the at-risk individual would be quickly found. But dog units and aircraft surveillance weren't enough to end this mystery. Despite the extensive search efforts, Gerard wasn't located, nor was his body ever found. An inquest into the inexplicable vanishing was opened, and it resulted in the suggestion that the missing man was no longer alive. In September of that year, the missing man's mother would reveal more information about his personality. According to her, Gerard had a history of going missing following family arguments. She maintained, though, that he always came back, but he was said to have a rough reputation and was described as, quote, a fighter. Gerard's mother further suggested that when he exhibited his rough nature, it would be very bad. The inquest found that just a year prior, Gerard had 3 fits, which came just months before his untimely disappearance. The details revealed here were enough to suggest that he could easily have found himself in an unfriendly situation that would have led to his vanishing. The community is baffled by the incident and believes that somebody has done something to the man, and his uncle suggests that there were several people who didn't like him. It was alleged that if he were experiencing a manic episode, that he may go after other people. Some believe that this may have been what happened, and that it could have targeted the wrong person. A former girlfriend even claimed to have heard a rumor that stated he was taken and was being kept in a barn. But this was all just speculation of family members, police, and the community. No one truly knows what happened to Gerard, and what circumstances he may have met with, and what led him to enigmatically vanish. Several years have gone by, and Gerard's face continues to stare out of the missing person posters that dominate street lamps, social media, and blog posts. But no one has come forward with any information that could end the mystery. Information can be directed to Crime Stoppers at 0800-555-111 with the reference number 758 of the 13th of February, 2007. Number 2. Jody Dallas Pennington was known for his love of the outdoors. He'd often head off with friends on camping trips and fishing expeditions. The 49-year-old Jacksonville, Arkansas resident had quite the routine lifestyle, often embarking on short trips to his favorite nature spots. One thing about Jody was that he always told someone where he was going and remained in communication, especially when plans changed. His sudden, uninformed disappearance in March was certainly uncharacteristic and left the Jacksonville community in search of answers. It was the 11th of March when Jody was last spotted in Jacksonville when he left his home in his red 1995 Ford F-150 pickup truck. The vehicle itself was hard to miss. It had a white Razorback hog decal on the back windscreen, stickers of bullet holes decorating the rim of the back window, and a distinct gray toolbox in the bed. Bizarrely, there was no indication of where he was going, and he informed no one of his plans. According to his brother Bernie, he would sometimes take off on a solo weekend trip for fishing or camping, but it wouldn't be for this long, or without anyone knowing. His behavior was viewed as incredibly uncharacteristic. The next sighting associated with Jody would come the very next day, when the flock cameras located in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, captured the Ford 55 miles away from Jacksonville. It isn't known if Jody was the one driving when it was captured on camera, but it was the only lead they had. After that one crucial clue, though, the case went eerily cold, with no further sightings or evidence that may suggest his whereabouts. Ever since that fateful day, the Pennington family has been relentlessly searching for answers, hoping to find something that would end the misery for good. Bernie has expressed a deep concern over the lack of information. He headed off to every single hunting, fishing, and camping spot that his brother was known to frequent, but there was no sign of him. Not a footprint, a personal item, or even a tire track belonging to the Ford. It seemed that Jody had vanished from the face of the earth, leaving unanswered questions and mystery in his wake. The Pennington family wasn't the only ones searching for the missing man. The Jacksonville Police Department carried out its own investigation too, exploiting all possible efforts, only to come up empty-handed. As the police and family reach out to the community for help, they sit anxiously, waiting for that one phone call that could change everything for them. It's been several months since the disappearance, and no leads have come in, and Jody remains missing. Information regarding this eerie disappearance can be directed to the Jacksonville Police Department at 501-982-3191. Number 1. Living as a host to several medical conditions was Donita Luda Wilkerson, who by 2020 already had 6 children, aged from 15 to 22. It was also that year that she'd be staying at her brother's Evansville, Indiana home, only to disappear, leaving a seemingly unsolvable mystery behind. On the 21st of June, Donita left her brother's home near Lodge and Taylor Avenues, telling her youngest daughter that she'd be right back. But little did anyone know this would be the last time they would see her. The 44-year-old didn't return that evening, and all efforts to contact her failed. The next morning, when family members realized she hadn't returned their calls, they reported her missing to the local police department, and the search for Donita began. Police first tried to establish contact with her, but found that her cell phone had either been shut off or run out of battery. Hoping to determine what movements there were, investigators soon turned to surveillance videos and began scouring hours worth of footage. It didn't take them long to come across footage of Donita, where she was seen around 8:16 the previous evening, leaving an East Side motel in Evansville. Security cameras then showed her standing outside of the establishment alongside an unnamed individual. Upon walking away from that man, she'd be seen climbing into a silver 2004 Chevrolet Suburban that had a sunroof and tinted windows. And finally, they had a lead. Police searched through more security footage, trailing the route of the SUV that the missing woman had climbed into. It drove through southwest Indiana and then into southern Illinois. Investigators managed to find that Donita's phone had pinged 5 times in this area, specifically around Carbondale in Illinois. The pings would stop abruptly in the early hours of the following morning. Authorities were able to determine who the owner of the SUV was, and they were quickly tracked down, but they allegedly refused to cooperate with the investigation, leading the case to run eerily cold. In the days leading up to Donita's disappearance, though, something sinister had already taken place. According to the family, she'd been receiving increasingly threatening messages from 2 men. One of the individuals was a former boyfriend. According to court records, he'd been arrested 4 times between 2018 and 2019, allegedly for domestic violence and battery. Donita was listed as a victim. Though their identities have not been released to the public, those two men and the SUV owner are not considered to be suspects when it comes to the bizarre disappearance. The case is still currently under investigation, with no breakthroughs having been made. A $5,000 reward has been offered for information that leads to the missing woman's discovery. Information can be directed to the Evansville Police Department at 812-436-7979. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.